We live in the rapidly changing and ever more complex world in which a human being experiences increasing divisions into numerous particular relations and different personas. Our personhood is split between different people, between different places, workplaces, social milieus, social roles, statuses that we need to maintain just in order to go on. Well, sometimes it pays out to be multifaceted and adaptive, but in the long run it creates the situation, very dangerous situation, of psychological compartmentalisation and personal dissociation. We are becoming alienated from ourselves, from our fellow citizens, from the entire world. This in turn comes in contradiction with the need of personal self-continuity as a guarantee, as a feature of both personal integrity and unimpaired social life. So in order to deal with the problem, we need to question and to challenge exclusion both socially and metaphysically. Well, the phenomenon of social exclusion is created by discriminatory social practices. There is nothing new about it, of course. But I would like to add to this another source of social exclusion, the substantivist theories of the self. You see, we as humans, as a group of animals, we define ourselves by separating us from them. Hence we create a kind of social and psychological borders between one another and between different groups. We believe in the notion called social stratification. And despite the fact that we can talk about social mobility, still we do believe that social stratification is something solid and something serious. In the same way we believe that borders between different individuals are something to be celebrated. We are being told that the more individual mature is, the more self-efficient, self-sufficient, self-autonomous, the more autonomous actually you are, the less you are dependent on other people. So if you are feeling dependent, this is not good. It is linked to the question of social exclusion by the very simple fact we are already creating the metaphysics of exclusion by building our social life in this way, by creating substantivist theories of self. What does it mean, substantivist theory of self? It means self-contained individual. And so that is why the politics of inclusivity is a very good, of course, one. It's aimed at bringing into the mainstream social life and educational practices those people previously excluded from it and marginalized. So as idea, everything is quite well and good. But you see, social work does not exhaust the problem of social exclusion, because it offers kind of mutual adaptation between the mainstreamers and those excluded. Kind of adaptation without actually changing the social structure that enhances, creates, reproduces, maintains social divisions and social inclusion. You see, it's like in a situation with the separatist feminism. The argument is that men cannot fight for the ideals of feminism for a very simple reason, because they are already situated in society, and by their very gendered position they will be recreating, reenacting the same scenarios that are supporting these discriminatory practices and patriarchal society. So in order to change the situation, we need to change our position, actually. In order to overcome social exclusion, my idea is that we need to achieve some kind of metaphysical transgression of exclusion. In metaphysics, in philosophy usually, and in politics as well, we do it with the help of a very simple mechanism, like ascending to the one, where all the particular differences have no meaning at all. Of course, we do it by the cost of devaluating and neglecting the individual, not capacities, but differences. Of course, we say that the price is not so high because we achieve social solidarity, which is a continuous issue and problem in the modern democracies particularly. However, the integrated self is achieved through inclusion of all aspects and all manifestations of the self, not only of those socially approved, noticed, or celebrated. So in order for me to accept myself, I need to accept everything about me. Of course, acceptance doesn't mean that I indulge myself in all this sort of stuff. In order to understand myself properly, I need to reaffirm somehow the insights of existentialists that other people are the condition of my own self-realization, self-actualization. Ability to create and to maintain lasting, harmonious relations with other people, the communicative intelligence are of utmost importance. But somehow in our educational practice we talk only about our calculatory capabilities. We do not have programs or subjects that actually help to enhance our social or emotional intelligence. A subjective experience of an individual is of no value in our mainstream educational practices. And so let me ask a simple question: how on earth we are expecting to build a different social structure if we do not support any kind of practices that will enhance individuality, that will contribute to our ability to communicate and to tune unto one another? The problem, as I see it, is with the binary culture that we have and live in. This discourse of the binary culture presupposes and enhances reproduction of exclusion models, like, for instance, pairs of norm and deviation, like healthy and disabled, like full functioning and impaired. And particularly it's true in the case of personal self-identification. We are prompted to define ourselves strictly as this or that or that. Check one. Little or no feeling of self comes in contradiction with the need of this personal integrity, of unimpaired social and psychic life, as I said before. But achievement of this psychic health, of this mental health, sustainable development of a person, is impossible without conscious awareness of the self, about proper awareness of my own real feelings, intentions, desires, real, not those imposed onto me. Sustainable development of a person needs to lead to the gathering of the self. But gathering of the self doesn't mean the creation of a kind of defense mechanism that will again separate me from other people. We are wired in the way to communicate and to understand one another. And in order to create a truly inclusive society, we need to change our ideas about how people become mature. So they become mature by creating ever more complex relations and being able to support, to maintain them, even on the distances. We need to move from the competitiveness and control to cooperation and co-development, because in the milieu where there is high competitive level, all types of relations are differentiated. They are just being perverted. Potentials of social reformation, to my mind, and personal sustainability and social sustainability are not about seeking some new kind of identities, social identities, political identities, gender identity, class identity, sexual identity, doesn't really matter. Rather, our path is through realization of active and performative self, which will not be limited only by a predefined sets of definition and identities. So I'm voting for this performative self, and hence I'm saying I am what I do, not what other people define me like.